There was a time when I prayed for one thing, just one thing. I wanted him to choose me. Not eventually, not someday, not when life settled down. I wanted him to choose me now. And every time he left, I prayed he'd come back. Every time he pulled away, I prayed he'd realize what we could have been. And every time my phone lit up with his name, I thought maybe this was finally the moment God was answering my prayer. Looking back, I think God was answering it, just not in the way that I wanted. Everything happened fast. The conversations, the connection, the feeling that maybe I'd finally found someone who saw me. At the time, it felt effortless. Like one of those stories people tell when they say, when you know, you know. I remember thinking, this has to be the beginning of something, because why else would it feel this easy? But what I didn't realize then was that I wasn't falling in love with who he was. I was falling in love with who I thought he could become. There's a difference, a painful one. Because potential is convincing. Potential lets you fill in the blanks. Potential lets you imagine future conversations that never happen. Future memories that never exist. Future versions of people who never arrive. And without realizing it, I had created a person in my head. Someone who physically looked like him, sounded like him, texted like him, but wasn't actually him. A month later, he told me he wasn't ready. Work was overwhelming, life was difficult, he wasn't emotionally available. He told me I should let him go. Because if I kept holding on, I would get hurt. At the time, I thought he was confused. Looking back, I think he was being honest. The confusing part wasn't what he said. The confusing part was what happened afterward, because he kept coming back. Just enough to keep hope alive, just enough to make me wonder, just enough to convince me that maybe the story wasn't over yet. Months passed like that, a strange cycle. He'd leave, then return, would reconnect, then disappear again. And every single time, I thought the version of him I created was finally coming back. But he never did, because he wasn't real. Only the fantasy was. I remember asking him one day, should I let you go? And he said yes. No mixed signals, no confusion, no hesitation. Just yes. At the time, I don't think I wanted the truth. I wanted reassurance. I wanted him to say, no, stay. But that's not what happened. And somehow, even after telling me to let him go, he still came back. Which made me question everything. His words, his actions, my intuition, my worth. I spent so much time trying to understand him that I stopped asking why I was accepting things that hurt me. Eventually, something inside me got tired. Not angry, not bitter, just tired. Tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of building a future with someone who never seemed to arrive in the present. So I stopped responding, not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much. And for the first time, I chose silence. Months passed, and then one day, I saw her. I saw the dates, the photos, the smiles, the evidence that life had moved on without me. And if I'm honest, it broke me. I cried, I panicked. I grieved something that had never fully existed. Because I wasn't just mourning him, I was mourning the future I thought we'd have. The future I had rehearsed in my mind 1,000 times. What hurt most wasn't losing him. It was losing the story. The story where he came back. The story where he finally chose me. The story where everything made sense. The strange thing about unanswered prayers is that sometimes they don't feel like protection. They feel like loss. At least at first. Because when a door closes on the future you've imagined, it doesn't feel like you're being guided somewhere better. It feels like something has been taken from you. And for a long time, that's exactly what I believe had happened. A month had passed, and guess what? He reached out again. He told me he missed me, told me he wanted to see me, told me he wanted to work things out. And for a moment, the old hope came back. But this time, something felt different. Because I knew something he didn't know. I knew he was still seeing her. And suddenly, everything became clear. The words, the promises, the confusion, the contradictions. The version of him I'd spent years protecting in my mind finally disappeared. And in its place, I saw who he actually was. Not who I wanted him to be. Not who I prayed he'd become. Who he was. And that's when I realized something. God wasn't withholding something good from me. He was protecting me from something I couldn't see. I thought she got the version of him that I wanted. The version that finally stayed. The version that finally chose someone. the version that finally became everything I hoped he would be. But looking back, I don't actually know that, because the truth is, I never really knew him. I knew the version of him that existed inside my imagination, and those are not the same. It took me a while to understand that rejection and protection can look identical in the beginning. Both close doors, both break hearts, both leave you confused. The difference only becomes clear years later. Today, my life looks different. I live in a different city. I have different dreams, different priorities, different responsibilities. And most importantly, I have peace. The kind of peace I never had while waiting for him. Sometimes I think about that old prayer, the one I begged God to answer, the one I cried over, the one I thought would make me happy. And every time I remember it, I smile. Because what felt like rejection was protection. And if God had given me exactly what I wanted back then, I might have missed everything he was trying to lead me towards. And that's when I realized sometimes the prayer that goes unanswered becomes the answer itself.